And now when I look back, man, when you're in it, it's like throwing spaghetti on the wall. Oh God, let something work. But when you're looking back, when you found some success, it's a framework. And my framework number one is, if you're trying to figure out a market, you need four things. One, do you love this market, or do you have a passion for it, for the market or the audience? Building a company or anything worth doing is a long slog. You won't be able to sustain if you hate your audience or your customers, right? I mean, look at you. How long have you been doing this? Like 7, 10 years?
9 years.
Yeah. 9 years. See, if you hated this audience, would you be able to wake up? Probably not.
Never.
The next thing is it a small but growing niche? I like to niche down in the early days because, man, it's better to be an inch wide and a mile deep. Otherwise, you're trying to be too many things to too many people. And in the early days, you just need one beachhead. So we niche down as much as possible. And Alex was living in Calgary at the time. Although I was in San Francisco, I moved into his apartment, spare bedroom in Calgary. And so it was like startup founders in Calgary. That was our initial niche down market. Third is propensity to pay. For us, it was easy that, we get paid when they get paid anyway. And the last one is ease of access. This ease of access is really important. A lot of the times as founders, we bang our heads on large markets that we can't access. And then we run out of steam. In the beginning, you just need a beachhead. Do I have a passion for this audience? Is it a small niche? Can they pay? And is there ease of access? So we found all of that with the startup market. And what was really interesting was, because it was a small niche, we found two white spaces. One, no media was covering startups in the region at the time. And two, all the events that were happening were high-level CEO platitudes. Podcasting wasn't huge for business in 2012. Neither was like LinkedIn as a source of business content, tactical business content. What was happening a lot was influencers like Jason Fried and Neil Patel and them were blogging a lot. So we're like, if we start a blog, no one's going to read our blog. We're not going to get the SEO. So the two white spaces are, the media is not covering startups in this region, and all the events are high-level CEO platitudes. But if I've started a company and quit my job, I don't need inspiration. I need tactics. How do I get my first X customers? How do I get my investment, etc.? So what we did was we did two things. We had a free co-working space, and so we started hosting regular weekly meetups there with tactical advice. See, we understood the ICP really well, right? Where they eat, breathe, drink, sleep. What are the pains and goals? Pains and goals are short-lived. So you also got to understand the aspiration, right? Like with every SaaS company that hits 100 million, they have multiple products. The customer's aspiration gives you your next few products. The pain and goal gives you the immediate. And then we understood what stood in their way. Then we understood their circle of influence. And I think this is super key. Circle of influence means, who are the influencers they follow and they listen to? Because those are the people you could invite on your podcast or as speakers to your event. Who are the people they fund, meaning what are the tools, services they pay for? Those are the people you can reach out to co-host events, partners, sponsor, so you get their social proof. And the last one is, where do they frequent, meaning what blogs, what magazines they read, what podcasts, what platforms they're prevalent on, so you can distribute your content there. So those things we understood really well. And so we started hosting weekly meetups, man. Like, it's like, hey, Omar, I'm inviting Jason Lemkin to talk about how he got his first 10 enterprise customers, free pizza at the co-working space, 10 spots. Would love to see you join. Now, when you hear a message like that, that's private, you're going to show up.
Right.
And so we just never stopped. We kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And then we reached out to the local press and we asked them to cover startups. And the local newspaper said, no, it's not even a priority. I didn't take that as a rejection. I reached out to a regional blog. I'm like, let me cover startups in this region. They said, fine, we'll give you a post. They gave me a post, covered 2 or 3 startups, and I didn't stop there. See, a lot of us, what we do is we post content on channels and we don't distribute it. The channel is not going to drive you distribution immediately. You're going to have to seed it. So I reached out to everyone in my contact list to retweet. Twitter was huge at the time. It got so much traction that I went back to the newspaper. I wanted to be in the newspaper. And I said, see how much traction this has gotten. You're losing the younger demographic. By covering startups, you'll get this demographic. Otherwise, the newspaper is a dying medium for the younger audience. He's like, fine, I'm going to give you a blog post. I understand, like, this has got a lot of traffic, this regional blog, a blog post. Now, another lesson here is, unless you're doing something illegal as a founder, beg for forgiveness, don't ask for permission.
Right.
So we call that blog post Startup of the Week. And we covered a founder that got 3 million in funding and wasn't able to get TechCrunch. He blew it up. And we also reached out to our whole phone list, go on WhatsApp, go on contact list on email, LinkedIn, and just ask everyone to retweet it. It blew up, and now I'm getting missed calls from the editor. I'm like, oh, he's going to be pissed. He picked up the phone. Finally, I pick up the phone, and he's like, man, that was really good. If you commit to writing it every week, I'll give you a print column. Wow. And that print column gave us two guys who are, our business is all about credibility, man. We're taking people's IP and R&D data. So it gave us instant credibility. Even in 2023, when blogs are so huge, if you're in the print of a newspaper, you will print it out, right? That's the reality. My mom still prints out when I'm in the papers, right? And sticks it on the wall. So every week, these founders were going and printing out or buying newspapers from the stand at 7, 8 in the morning and sharing clippings of it. I also got a weekly backlink for my website for the anchor texted keyword that I wanted from the largest domain authority website in the country. It's the newspaper. The government site is bigger domain authority. So our SEO started to jump, right? And then we put a form in there that said, if you want to be featured, apply. So the newspaper weekly Startup of the Week was building our audience. But in order to turn that audience into a community, I needed to collect email addresses. And that form gave us people's email addresses. And now what I did was I have this online audience building, would invite them to come to our weekly meetups with influencers for them who would talk and share tactical advice. And so the community started growing and we started getting their social proof. And that led to several of our clients, referrals, partners. And in fact, to this day, man, our salespeople are glorified community managers. They go out there and shake hands and kiss babies and basically add value in the community, right? And we're seen as the community guys, but a lot of our stuff comes from partnerships and referrals. And then over time, we added SDRs and so on. But that got us to a large chunk of our revenue. In fact, some of our partners, we have one partner that we white label for in the US that came through the community. That's 3 million in revenue with us. How insane is that? Wow. The firm that bought 52% of the company came to a community event we hosted and then reached out saying, hey, would you be interested in joining our venture partner network? We'll give you carry in the deal flow. And I'm like, I got a business to run. They're like, our community is called Traction. And we host a big conference in Vancouver, podcasts, etc., but a lot of meetups back in the day. And I said, listen, I have a business to run. And they're like, is Traction not your business? I'm like, no, it's a community give back thing we do. And they asked, what's your business? And I explained the business and they asked me, what's the gross margin? I'm like, 80%. And how many people do you have? And we're like way north of 5 now. I said, we're 30 people. Like, what's your CAC payback period? I'm like, what CAC payback period? We do these events and we get customers. There's no marketing team here. Man, the term sheet followed literally after that.
And we didn't want to you through one of the events.
They literally came to an event, which, I talked the fund follow frequent model. One of our partners, right, brought them and recommended them as a panelist for a panel we were running, and a partner that, helps other startup founders as well. And they literally came as a speaker and they're like, who runs this event? They said, Lloyd manages this. And then they reached out. So that is the power of community. Wow. To me, man. I'm everything I am. I have every single thing I have because of the community. I live in Dubai now. And I kid you not, more than 50% of the key influential people I've met here is because of that community. At the last conference, when I said I'm moving to Dubai, a number of community members made connections for me in Dubai, which is great. But the community now today is 120 some odd and change subscribers. And it's funny because we entered the pandemic with about 30,000 and change subscribers. And I freaked out during the pandemic. I freaked out because we're largely an event-driven lead generation machine. And we had a big conference planned and we had to cancel it. And I couldn't bring myself to do a 2-day virtual summit because I'm like, I can't sit through it. So just happenstance, reached out to all the speakers and I said, would you be interested in doing a live AMA twice a week? It started as once a week and then it moved to twice a week. And they said, yeah, 1 hour. And now we got like 500 to 1,000 people joining this. And we didn't stop